No, I got it. You know, you done enough of these introduction for resumes and job interviews. You kind of have like a 2-minute spiel for anybody, right? Damarius Truster is my name. I would consider myself a servant, a global scholar, a humble person, and most importantly, just a lifelong learner. I'm really gifted in a lot of different areas. I have a huge family, 8 brothers and 4 sisters, which really makes up my worldview. You come from a family with that many characters, alongside a broken household, one household whole, one household stable. When I say whole, like one marriage, one stable with one parent, and learning a lot about going in between that is unique to my upbringing and my stitching. Those 8 and 4 make 12, 8 brothers and 4 sisters. I think uniquely our relationship growing up is the reason why I have so much understanding with people. And honestly, outside of that, going to be a part of team sports in high school and all that, it just made me adept with people from different backgrounds. Because my house, uniquely, I have a multi-ethnic, multiracial, and multi-religious family. Very early, I knew that Jehovah's Witnesses did not celebrate everything that every Christian did, and that the Nation of Islam was a real thing. My stepdad used to have us watching Farrakhan speeches before I actually could truly understand what the message to the black man was. And then my oldest stepbrother, he would tell me about his dad's house when he would go to see his family in their Jewish synagogue Saturdays, and how that was the most interesting contrast from him coming from his dad's house on Saturday after attending synagogue and then coming to the Watchtower or the Jehovah's Witness circles or services immediately after that. It was such an interesting perspective for me as far as my upbringing is concerned. It's just like why I felt like the case studies that I got in between the ages of 3 to 18 kind of just really shaped my worldview. Then I joined the Marine Corps. Now, I mean, there's a lot going on in my mind. Personally, it's mostly just trying to figure out what God's doing, truthfully. I always tell you, like, bro, you better be listening to something. You better be, because I am. Just trying to figure out how to make sense of some of this noise. And most importantly, if there's principles that I feel like are healthy and universal, if there's a lawgiver responsible for administrating those things, am I reluctant or am I obedient to accepting those truths? Truthfully, is the way that a lot of the things that I've been aligning myself with has been the most thoughtful, considering like my past, my present, and my future. Even examining some of the things that in history, just for my own family is concerned. I was just telling a friend of mine from Uganda the other day, and we were talking about our families past. A lot of people come from different places in the diaspora in Africa, right? East and West Africa uniquely. Her parents, had a few shortcomings. And the interest was, the lack of empathy they had for developing a child. And almost like the sheer abandonness that, they could display at such an early age. And I'm like, yeah, such an interesting experience to accept. But dang, can you imagine what it would have been like at her age, at a time where information was very much limited, and a lot of the things that we come to accept today was something that you didn't even have the time to talk about. I mean, uniquely for me, I was telling her, like, I could not talk about being a slave, but my grandma could. I couldn't talk about being a sharecropper, but my grandfather could. I couldn't talk about being chased by the Klan, but my grandfather could. I couldn't talk about using crack alongside their parents, but my dad could. I couldn't talk about being molested by family members, but my mom could. I couldn't talk about losing 2 children before they were 30, but my mom could. I couldn't talk about, a list of different life experiences that are intimate to people that my upbringing, that just taught me, like, there's nothing linear, and I just felt like it helped me kind of reconcile a few things as far as like me to be grateful for two things. My health, number one. And there were experiences that I had to kind of show me that that's the most important thing. The experiences that I had that allowed me to think about that to be the only most important thing, right? So man, listen, I just got into a car crash. Like 10 years ago, I was in an IDF, being almost shot at by the embassy in Iraq by a rocket, was unconscious. I lost two friends. I lost one friend boxing. I got another friend that boxed with me alongside of the teammate. They're both my roommate. One passed in training, and the other one got a traumatic brain injury and got medically discharged from the service. He's never the same. You know what I mean? So it's like, I have a lot. I could not, yeah. It's just a lot to be thankful for. Yeah, my brothers in arms kind of felt like it's a depth for me with a big family group, you know, to kind of like also say like my, you know, fraternal experiences that I got from my household just extended to a branch of unfortunate, inglorious bastards called United States Marines, who kind of equipped me with this ethos and this fighting spirit that just caused me to feel like I'm the most indestructible piece of crap to ever walk the earth. But knowing that's just not true. But the fighting spirit is definitely something that I'll never forget. Something we call esprit de corps. And I'm grateful for that as well, because it's also part of my worldview. Just like this unrelentless, you know, desire to succeed or try to do something better than I did a week, a month ago, because the only thing that matters is if I gave it effort. And the only time I'll know if I didn't is if I stopped breathing. That I never, ever, ever, ever lose my framework, ever. So I'm thankful for that. And then I was in intelligence for a long time, right? So 10 years as a Marine Corps intelligence analyst. I also got to box and become a boxer in the Marine Corps. And I got to fight in the Pan American Games and Olympic trials. You know, I fought alongside world champions like Earl Spence, to name one, Jamel Herring to name a second one. Both of them were guys I could call personally at a time in my life, only to, you know, hang up the gloves, say, look, I don't need to do this, and go serve at embassies in Athens, Greece, Accra, Ghana, and Baghdad, Iraq. And the most, you know, bizarre, honestly, experiences that I had at those embassies, because you just never knew what the life was like as an expat. You just never see that. A lot of people don't get to see that. So I think that, you know, internationally, and just having an intelligence framework, you know, to think about how the world works from the Marine Corps and then seeing it on the diplomatic side was interesting. You know, kid from Minnesota, got a kid. You just, you really can't just make that up, you know what I mean?
So, were you a boxer before you got in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, my dad, man. Yeah, he introduced me to boxing around 3 or 4. Yeah. My dad was a very charismatic guy. He was my hero. You know, in a sense still is, you know, as far as, you know, my health and some of the things that he poured into me is concerned. I just don't have any excuse not to honor that for what it's worth. I don't think I'll ever know what it's like to be a parent till I become a parent. So I can't really like forego, you know, any of the shortcomings that I, you know, think that he may think that I dwell upon. But I will say that it's a reverence thing, because there's some people that don't even have a sound mind to even consider that for their children. And I'm just grateful that God gave me that. With that being said, I got his name tattooed on my chest. And, you know, he'll always be a special figure in my life. We may not be as close as we like to just because health and other reasons, but it doesn't mean that I'm unhealthy mentally about it. The earliest memories of me in boxing is not me winning. It's just me getting beat up and looking at the ceiling because my brother just jabbing me. But yeah, my dad is the icebreaker for that sport in my life. Yeah, I mean, like, he didn't really take on the sport like I did. You know, my dad, I was more consistent with it. You know, my dad, you know, trained people for a living. He was a personal trainer and a salesman for a living, for a lot of the things that I've seen in my life with him. Before I was born, I'm not sure what that looked like. But I know it's unique. I had brothers and like very like aggressive friends. They were like not afraid with the shit. You know what I mean? Like we'll fight, we fight. And then like, we grew up on hip hop. So there's a lot of messages in there where you gotta like, yo, it's time to go down. You gotta stand up for yours. A lot of the influence that were in my early preteens and teenagers is all about that life. And then I grew up around a lot of gangs and stuff like that. So I seen a lot in school, gang members coming and having like fights and stuff like that in high school and stuff like that. So it's like, that was never a problem. For me personally though, like I always, like I had an anger thing. And so like, if I got mad or if somebody, makes for one of my family members, yeah, I bite my cheeks and I'll go in there and throw punches, no hesitation. You know what I mean? And I think that boxing helped me get a hold of that for sure. But it was always, the fight was always there for me. So like, that's what I'm saying. The most important thing for me right now is, kind of figuring out how God would like me to use that. Because I feel like there's healthy ways to do it and there's counterproductive ways to do it. A lot of times we'll put ourselves in spaces that we feel like is healthy, but really this is distraction from us actually, looking internally to figure out, what this little ugly gripe for dragon that you may call could be considered a demon. And how come we're not necessarily looking at it to a lens where we're saying, I just know this is not here for the right purposes. And fucking with it every day until you get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like just keep punching in the face, you know what I mean? I think that that's unique, but I think it's also human. Yeah, so it's a thing called offense, right? And God says you should not take offense. If you are following his laws, you won't be offended at no thing. I think that that's one unique way to say that's where I got fuel to kind of consider those things. Because why am I offended by things I can't control? Why is that a thought that considers, me thinking that I have a reason to be critical of something that I'm truly not the author of? You know what I mean? I think that those things that were, first line of reasoning about me just trying to get some closure on things that I really felt like I should dwelt upon when they really weren't there. And I needed help from God, so that's where I got the fuel to kind of talk about these things and just kind of say like, yo, that there's an answer for these things, truthfully. I think everybody intuitively knows, like, I could do this, you know what I mean? Because that's good, right? And I think that every good and perfect thing comes from above. And I also think that that's not necessarily something that you can change. It's just a sound fact of life. And that's okay if people think differently about it. But I feel like there is a truthful standard in this book that is hard to deny because it's so profound and so standardized that it's almost impossible to ignore. And I think that that's a great place to put those concerns. I've heard this a lot, as far as like people come in contact with me. I couldn't tell you why God told you that. You know what I mean? I'm not your life experiences, you know what I mean? But I'm happy to give you some affirmation that he's real. I know some people don't even have that framework. I think that that's healthy. I surely tell people if they are considering that to be the inspiration the inspiration for Reconnected, if you would spend time reading the literature for case studies on if that's consistent is, where it'd be the best thing for me to point them to. Because all I can say is I'm doing that as well. Truthfully, I'm too humble to take any credit, for anything. Like I said, the only thing that I'm valuable for is that I'm still on this side of time. Being able to work through some of the shortcomings that I know that are not the way that God approves. And as I do so, I'll encourage people to do that, and I just point them back to that. To touch on your thing about people finding God as they're looking through different lenses, I just want to declare there's a difference between Christianity and the Bible. And that's why I just tell people you have to kind of know what that is. Just like when I tell you remember you say you grew up Catholic. I'm like, yeah, but that there's a doctrine that says that the Pope is infallible. That's not biblical. So I feel like when I told you your skepticism is honest, it's because there's where that standard is actually addressed. Whether or not you will reconcile that by going and looking and seeing whether the context that also can edify your understanding about it. It's something I pray would, soon be something that you accept, or if not, perceive it to be something that you should, because I think that would be a way that you can establish being able to help people kind of go through some of the noise and not being stuck into a group thing that doesn't necessarily help them establish anything that's biblical. I know the term Christian is in the Bible, but not Christianity. That's a religion. And believe that the soundness by that is based on Martin Luther, the Protestant, right? So we're not the just shall live by faith, right? And so that whole thing took on a whole form because the Catholics had different things that they were doing for sins, right? Like paying penance and stuff like that. That's historically evidence to say, like, that's definitely some reason why there is some cause for reconciliation on doctrine. And I think that that's unique because I don't think that that's ever changed since people have decided to read the book about how they how they interpret what's reading literally and what's being taught. I think that that's kind of challenging. And so being a disciple, you're supposed to do that. I think if you're looking for this answer, though, it's a great thing. I think that if you're also acknowledging that there is some religious things that you should, really take some time to dwell into that's not unhealthy. I don't consider that, the fact that you even contemplating these things, not to be a sign to say that, you probably are closer than you like to know. But then again, God works in strange ways, man. You know what I mean? I couldn't tell you, about, how many different things that may cross against your conscience as I lit this up. But what I will say is I do understand that there is a lot of noise and a lot of different things, but you have to stay consistent. And if you're not, then you're going to deal with something called anxiety, because the word talks about the thing called the enemy or the devil who shoots these fiery dice to try to quench the word that's been stowed into your mind. And so that's why I say this thing that I have with the Marine Corps, every day trying something is, the reason why I feel like that was one of the most, welcoming fraternal organizations that I had to join. You know what I'm saying? Secondly, I don't know how to not stop. I was telling a few of my friends, bro, we sucked this thing, right? It's God Country Corps. And so remember in uniform, there was a lot of things that we did on the wake up, right? But the first thing you did before you got in that door is put that uniform on. And so now that I took the uniform off, the first thing I do, or as often as I can, is read the word. And whether that's for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours, the time's difference. But if I can if I can get up, leave different countries, and put on a uniform on behalf of my nation, then I should get up and at least apply 10, 20 minutes to reading a chapter, a verse, and spend too much time in there. And I think that's been the biggest difference. I've been committed to that. And I haven't been as consistent as I like to, but I've never stopped putting my time and effort towards examining some of those things for myself, for a relationship's sake. And if I couldn't get some understanding by reading, I would listen to sermons, or I would find a worship song, or I would listen to somebody debate it that had more insight to it. I would never stop looking. And so if that type of zeal was something that I felt like I knew that I was capable of, and why I was just so determined that I won't quit. I think I was gifted with, good health and metabolism like that. I fought, but I think, no, I fought because I like to fight. I'm violent. I like to fight. I really do. I had to stop fighting because I had trauma, and I had my own internal battles where I was just abusing my health, drinking and smoking and just stuff that, if you're fighting, it's something that's definitely not going to help you in the ring. So it's just let me put this to the side. But I was struggling with that for a minute. But I enjoy a fight. Yeah, I really do. I feel like, God gave me patience and endurance. I've had plenty of episodes like that, though, for sure. Especially with women, especially with friends and family, especially with money, especially with where I put myself, especially with some conversations that I felt like wasn't going nowhere. There's many ways I can examine that, you know what I mean? But I'm human, you know what I mean? So it's like, I can't be fronting and, make it seem like, yeah, some of the things that, some of my brethren in humanity might address may not be something that I may not address. I think that's unique, but I won't freaking not be honest about that. You could tell when people are not, though. That's the funny part. You know what I mean? Like, I know you fronting, and it's all good. You just need a hug or something. Or maybe you need to get punched in the stomach, Sometimes, but it also says, answer rebukely to some people who don't get it. Sharp rebuke, hands as fools. You know what I mean? Some people just need to have it. You know what I'm saying? They'll have to deal with the offense later. But you shouldn't be, example, there's one thing. Here's one scripture that helped me deal with a lot of people. I think it's in the book of Proverbs or Sirach, but it says, if a brother, I may be quoting this wrong, but if somebody speaks ill of their brother or their neighbor, when they speak peacefully, believe them not, because underneath them, there's 7 other abominations, right? And so like, if you consider like whether or not you want to talk to a family member who clearly is not, being honest with themselves about some of the things that are going on, and you hear like there's a rabbit hole of grievances. So it's like, why is this even something I want to be in? You know what I mean? It's wise to separate from things like that. And that's not a personal thing. That's just saying, I got to work on other things because I may not be able to handle, interpreting this person without feeling like I'm offended. And so I felt like if you're building yourself up to handle those conversations, then you need to set yourself apart from that. It's very true. You do have to have this carnal mind versus the spirit mind. And so like there's so many people that talk about, what it is to show that you have, that spirit with you, right? Some people say you need to have to be careful tongue. Some people need to have self-control. You know what I mean? Some people, know that the faith alone is also a gift. I'm not God. I think he works and assigns that as he chooses to do. But you see that there's a lot of things that are unique, about each relationship that, that God decides to use, people who are pursuing and establishing that connection with him and giving them gifts that are unique for his will. I think that's interesting. But it sounds like that's what you did. You just kind of trusted that that was the way to go. And I think that is actually really honorable. It shows that there's great reward in that. God said his strength is perfected in weakness. So like, are you asking for him to speak to you? And if you are you getting comfort that you need? Because he said he'll give you that too. And are you asking for the understanding and the wisdom to kind of overcome that? Or are you just allowing yourself to be going through these patterns without acknowledging the fact that, I had slipped up, but I didn't tell you that I acknowledged this was a slip up. Integrity is very important. Yeah, but God knows it. So it's like, it's not the fact that it's your word. It's like, did you give it to the one who's all knowing? I think that's interesting. You're not going to get help with that if you don't. Take it from me. Like I'm getting further away from things that I've never gotten away from for a long time, okay? For a long time, you know what I mean? I'm getting further away from them. I didn't say that they still don't have the time where they come against my mind. You get what I'm saying? They just don't linger, you get what I mean? Further away though, you feel the distance though. There's other things that you can be fruitful about, as far as like establishing that distance, right? It's like if you start running a marathon, you get further away as the days go by. Say if it's 100 miles, you just got to continue to keep pushing. That's why I say I can never give up, because in a sense you have to think that if God says he'll never leave you, and that to rejoice in these moments, and that if there's a strengthening that's happening through the chastisement because you're loved, are you approaching that space open-heartedly, like with thanksgiving and like, saying, I know that you are going to give me the things I need, because look at the posture I'm taking, I think that per relationship, it's important for a believer to have that.
I think you're totally spot on. I think I get it now, but let me make sure I understand it. What you're saying is if you're running a marathon, the starting point's at 0.
Yeah.
26.2 miles. And
What the?
how you doing? You over here, sit with me. You over here.
Check on you, make sure you're still alive.
Yeah, you didn't kill me with your soup. You didn't kill me with your soup.
She's the best.
Yeah, she's funny.
The autofocus went right to her when she came. Cool.
Just gotta keep running.
The stuff.
You're not gonna be the same, as long as you keep traveling. Yeah, it says with 2 or 3 together in my name, it's there. I mean, so that doesn't sound inconsistent. You'd be surprised how many people have had that and was ignorant of it. Think about, first of all, that's some father and son bonds are not like that. So that's a really beautiful illustration that you said that, because I never had that with my dad. And I don't think it's something that I need. You know what I mean? But I say that to say, like, it's so cool because I know your son. You know what I'm saying? When I say, like, I think that I knew he was deeply intuitive, it's because I know people that had, like, bipolar and schizophrenic in my family. And so, like, I'm talking about, like, some of the cases that I've seen, like, with people fighting and, like, the drug addictions that was going on. Like, when I was staying with my Aunt Tori's house at like 11 years old. She was a crackhead, but somebody threw a brick in her window and it landed on my back. You know what I mean? It's like those type of environments, for you and your son, you don't have those. So I think that's also a sign of protection over you. That's really cool because the severity of these things can be so different. And I think that he's definitely, even when I seen him, like, bro, I could, yes, I like to fight. So I'm looking at it like, I will beat you up. You know what I mean? Like, you should learn how to fight. Because somebody look at this kid, he's got these long extremities, you know what I mean? He looks like he can move laterally well, or he can develop it. I'm seeing all these things. And I know, like, though he may not be able to kind of have that experience or exposure to that, I know he believes that. And I think that that's what I was tapping into. He's struggling. That's fine. Like, it's just like me and women sometimes, bro. Like, I like you, girl. Look, I hear you. I'm not perfect. I'm just saying, like, I refuse to not think that there are some things that I know I can think about that are definitely repetitive and something that needs to change. I think that the people like that, though, are some of the most enlightening people to talk to because they're just honest about it. I credit my family for all this, to be honest with you. My mom and dad, they still some very, very unforgettable things inside of me. Being a part of community, having people's back. My mom and dad both had own group homes and home daycares. I've seen them take care of more children than their own. Uniquely, and they were not perfect, far from it. But I saw them labor on behalf of others. Those are my life experiences. Cases and episodes of that, now, I'm sorry, unfortunately, they were not fortunate, all of them, but they were definitely something that established a sound group, aggressive community and personality within me early. But then I also had like this set apart thing. Like my dad was like, you don't celebrate this. I didn't celebrate birthdays for a long time. I still don't really celebrate my birthday. My friends just be like, yeah, you want to do something? I'm like, yeah. And then, no, we got to do something. So they plan something for me, but I'm never like that. When people ask me like, why do you don't? And I was like, I just get up and thank God. I have too many birthdays overseas. But the barbecue initially was just like, me meal prepping and like I like to cook. And then we started networking with people here, and we started to meet like a high quality of people here. And most importantly, I just like to cook and I like good music. So I was like, I'm gonna be out here Sunday. And what turned out to just me being me on Sunday, just cooking, chilling with me and my roommate. turned into this thing that, started to blossom. People started to ask me if I was good more often, and I would, and then I just seen like new neighbors started to come in, and didn't want to go out on downtown on Sundays, and I just wanted to do something in my house. So that unfolded. And then naturally I'm curious. And so I'll be talking to people that I've never seen before. And I don't walk on eggshells, so I would make it awkward because I got a sense of humor. You know what I mean? Like, make it dumb awkward. Like, yeah, you got a fly in your face or something? You know what I mean? Like, what's your name, man? I'm just kidding. Come here, Or if they got kids or something, talk to the kids before I talk to the parents or something like that. Why? Because my mom owned daycares and I was working in the infant department. And my mom's like the baby whisperer, you know what I mean? She just has a gift with infants. So it's like, I've just seen these things in my life. So I credit, a lot of those things just me being able to kind of show my character at the grill because I like to feed people and I like to chill out. I think cooking a barbecue and especially is kind of therapeutic. And I just like music, and it just unfolded. People had started asking me to cater for them a few times. People have wanted to have grill outs with me and their group of friends, and both. It's been really unique, but it just took on its own thing, man. I just said it's just uniquely me. That's just like my thing, right? Like I just like the grill. I like good quality music, and it seemed to gravitate. I have adept interpersonal skills, right? Being all over the world, having other case studies, but I'm very private. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very private. You know what I mean? I spend a lot of time alone. A lot of the time. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, even though I have 8 brothers and 4 sisters, we didn't live with each other all the time. A lot of us were at other places. From the age of 16 to 26, I was by myself. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's just one of those facts of life that I had to accept. What I do think it just allowed me to think that there's no perfect thing. You know what I mean? So like, I wasn't looking for perfection. Like I said, I was just grateful that I was healthy. I didn't have like Down syndrome. I wasn't on somebody's caregiving schedule. I wasn't like on meds. I didn't have to like, suffer a knockout that, broke my jaw, made me concussed for 3 days. And then, I didn't, abuse my health, drink too much with friends. I didn't like decide to go sell dope on the corner. I was having people like really protecting me. I had people praying for me, people taking me to church, people bringing me to like, young men's fraternal organization that were talking about living healthy and doing something constructive, being part of nonprofits and groups that were, Black people truly, pouring into me in a sense. My mom's friends as well, the extended family that they brought me into. I think all those are, important, and the reason why I kind of just have barbecues that feel like that. But that's just me. I don't know what people are going to disclose to me, when I introduce myself to them. But I just know that I've been told to love them like I love myself. So if I'm going to listen to them, I have to apply some of the same principles that I get in myself. And I try to give myself some understanding, some grace, and some, personal time. So I could extend the same thing to my neighbor if I know you or not. Because, the human race has a lot of people who have to deal with these circumstances. Uniquely, I just have a, framework that it comes organically. But I have had challenges with some cases, for sure. My worldview was refined. So like, I got 3 degrees in 4 years, right? By the time somebody got 1 degree, I got a master's. So like, when I'm talking about refined, I went through a rigorous process, right? 2 degrees, bachelor's in psychology, bachelor's in economics, and a master's in affairs, all within 4 years, right? And the reason why I did that is because of my big family, want to know how to talk to people, want to learn how to listen to people. So, I think psychology teaches people discernment. And so I really wanted to make sure that I can speak to whoever about that. And international affairs and global studies are akin to what it would be like to serve in the military as a Marine Corps intelligence analyst. And so that was my worldview. And so I at least wanted to be able to speak to people organically from where I was at, no matter where they were from, about my worldview. And my main interest was just communication. That was it. Just wanted to say who I am and be extremely authentic. I didn't want no crazy job. I wanted to be clear-headed. I wanted people to understand that if I said something, that you can see it. I want to paint pictures, and I wanted to literally, see that as the most valuable thing, being able to communicate where you are and what you need, and get other people to agree. I just don't know how to quit. Yeah, if I put me on Marines, you just don't know how to stop. That's like I said. If I get on something, I don't care. I don't care. I will get it. You know what I mean? I will get it done. 18 years old, I had my 19-year-old birthday in boot camp. Yeah, it was real fun. Really fun until it wasn't. But all that thing I felt like is fruitful. The Marine Corps is a real special place, because it's so small. A lot of people don't know it's like 250,000 manpower. Like Google, I believe, is bigger than the Marine Corps. And we only have one mission, which is kick ass. So it makes it really, really unique culture. My drill instructors didn't scare me more than my mom. My mom was a fire-breathing dragon, boy. I'm trying to tell you. She could cuss everybody out. And yeah. No, they didn't intimidate like my mom did. Yeah.
What was the drill instructor like?
Very tense, very ordered, very disciplined. They came there to train people, so pissed off all the time. Put on a very good act to make sure that they saw that the standard that you needed to be was not something that you could second guess. And I'm grateful for them. I still keep in touch with my drill instructor. I can text him right now, call him. It's a small unit. Yeah, I just think that the world's fighting for us for a reason. With a fighting spirit of America. And that's what the ethos would tell you, right? This esprit de corps I was telling you about. I think that that's a really unavoidable thing that Marines have to accept, because that's literally what they lived through for 4 or 5 years, depending on how long they served. And there's something about lived experiences that you either have to accept or reject. And that's hard to reject. It's like if a doctor was, practicing, open heart surgery and, try to tell you about it, at a freaking OB/GYN clinic where people were talking about birth weights. It's like, I can't talk to these people. Yeah, it's not that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not, it's not going to be that. But yes, it's that unique. I think every life, what that allowed me to do is to kind of look at everybody though, uniquely, like in the profession. I think that you're gifted to have this line based on your experiences. Not everybody's artistic. Some people are very Pleasantville, black and white, and some people have extreme gifts that allow them to kind of have that, right? I have some friends that are gifted coders, but also very OCD, right? Like can't even go to the house without putting on a coaster to put your drink on. It's like, bruh, chill out,
Shoes off.
Exactly, yeah, shoes off and coasters on every drink, and they'll wipe behind you, you know what I mean? But I think that teaching the detail pays them, so they don't need to, you can see the life experience is something that they don't doubt. I feel like, peace is the most important thing regardless of what's going on. I just feel like, some people have these perfect outcomes and shit. And sometimes I really feel like it's avoiding something that should be working on because nobody's truly perfect. Like, I think that people are like overcompensate on like cleaning and stuff like that, really aren't taking care of themselves internally like that. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that that's not a healthy thing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that that's something that is, something that people should not strive to be. Cleanliness is not the godliness. I understand what cleanliness is. And I do think that cleanliness truly is a gift for some people, because like I, was raised in a different way. Like we had chores and stuff like that, but I had a group of people. The house got cleaned in an hour, all of us, you know what I mean? So like, it's just unique because I couldn't necessarily control everybody's effort in the laundry room if my responsibility was the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. But I also think that, I have the same etiquette for my health, right? Like I have to go to the gym, I have to sweat. So like if you're thinking that your house is clean and I'm like, yeah, but you're not in the gym. So what's the point of having this high standard if you're not taking care of your body the same way? What are you really cleaning for. You know what I mean? I think that these are things that I consider, something that comes against my mind as far as like why I kind of like look at the gift that people have for that. Because like I know that me cleaning is not necessarily a gift that like loves me to see. Like I don't got that.
What do you do? What practices or what actions do you take to ensure to have peace, to find that peace?
Confess, talk to God. God said, cast your cares on me. By His wounds we heal, right? The chastising of our peace was cast upon Him, right? So I just trust in that. That's very, spiritual. But I'm also like not afraid to talk to people about those conversations. That's another thing. Like, what do you want to know? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not afraid to tell you what I told God. Is that surprising? You're like, no, I'm not. That's why He says you live your life so people know. They want to know. I'm not worried about that. God knows what's up. You know what I mean? I'm just glad to be known and to have a relationship. I can't. I'm not like, no wizard or nothing like that. Neither do I want to be. Like, I don't got potion for you, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying this thing. I just think that there's some literature that's out there that's claiming to be living and breathing. And if you look at the evidence for yourself, apply those things for yourself, or if you look at them for consistency, you'll see that there's something that you cannot deny about it. And honestly, it's probably something that is way more present than you thought. And you'd be foolish to ignore it. 8 brothers, 4 sisters, 12.
12.
Yeah. That is a great question. I wish they told me about the School of Hard Knocks, businesses, how the world really works. I wish I had like somebody that also, taught me about biblical living first, earlier. But if, just, in a perfect world, right? I wish I had like a relative that had a business that allowed me to work for him, because I could see how it is and like mentor me on that, kind of taught me that. I met a unique woman here who had that. Her parents raised her unconditionally, and by the time she was 22, she made 170K selling houses. She lives here, networking. You know what I mean? You see these people with different gifts, but she didn't go to school like that. They took her to school to learn a trade, and she started a business. And so it's just like, I wish I had some of those things in my upbringing. But with that being said, I don't care if I didn't get them. I'm cool. But yeah, it's preferences. Yeah. Beasts are ruled by nature, right? You can't stop that. But in a sense, we're like a beast too, because our unordinate affection towards things that are not healthy. I think there's pros and cons to living. I think there's some good and bad. I think there's a lot more bad than good. I think you do your best at suppressing it. I think that there's only one way you can really get away from all of the badness. But that doesn't look like what you think it looks like. I also think that no matter who you are, I think because the thing of the mind, right? The thought of even harming somebody is just as guilty as doing it, right? So it's like, yeah, come on. I've had plenty of times where I've thought like that. And so it's like, I think if I look at transparency in that space, I just know that there's a lot more people that are, casual murderers, you know what I'm saying? For lack of better phrases. But yeah, it's a thing, man. I wouldn't consider myself above average. I would just consider myself trying to live a life that's pleasing to God as best as I can, like anybody else. I hope they find a resignation in some of the things we discussed. And if they did, I hope that it was because God was able to use me in a certain way. I would tell them, like, I'm not any different than you. But look in your Bible, the same thing I'm doing. There's great insight there. But ask yourself, like, loneliness is a feeling, right? God said he'll never leave you. So then he says that he charged angels so you're not lonely. It's a feeling. So you have to deny that, right? Because there's some demonic loneliness spirit telling you like, oh man, don't you feel like you should be perfect, little man? And then oh yes, it should be. Can you agree with it? Stupid. You know what I mean? But we're human. You know? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, yes. No. He says no. You know, so like all those things are projected onto us, right? You needed to have, 20K in the bank, and you needed to be debt free by the end of the next year. You didn't do it. You know what I mean? So now you're like, dang, well, you still got a chance to get it together. Come with a plan, think about it before you forward. But you'll be on the other side. You're like, man, I'm just gonna drink away and forget it and numb yourself to the fact that you could do something. And I've been there. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, all I'm saying is like, okay, but you only can go through that so many times. For how long before you really start to hear the man's like, all right, man, how many times have you asked me about this? And the consistency of that obviously be the strength of you saying, you're right, and giving it over. I think that comes with a lot of study. You have to listen to people say a thing about the word. I think there's this great insight that people have. And then you also have to force yourself to have these uncomfortable conversations about things that you're thinking about and the things that they teach. I don't know why there's things that you think that you can't consider. If he says, if you're looking for the truth, you'll find me. Are you trying to be honest with that? Yeah. Are you trying to be? So then if he says I'm the truth, that's the way. You know what I mean? So like, look for that. I would encourage people to do that. One thing they can say is my intention was not looking for answers. So the other side is if you don't, then your feelings manipulate you. So you can't stop learning. You know what I mean? That's one thing I'm learning like now. One reason why I feel like I'm able to kind of process things is because I just never stop trying to learn. You will feel something, whether it's good or bad for you. You better know what a good feeling and a bad feeling is. You could say it's equally important to notice that, anger is not a one. But can you see that you're greedy? Can you see that you're selfish? Can you see that you're inconsiderate sometimes? Can you see that you can be, foolish sometimes? Are you open to that as well? Those are also human aspects that we should recognize. And if you don't believe in those things, learn about it, and those things are even interesting enough. Like, are you guilty of that? Can you say that? Are you saying that thinking that you're gonna die? Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, what? I just don't understand what's so hard about being like, I did not do that thing like the way. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't do it. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's tough, you know what I mean, for us. You know what I mean? But I think that, look, I know there's some delusion we all face and don't wake up about how we're going to live our day. So like, I would just say like, that there's one thing that says there's there's truthful substance in its entirety. So look, while you're going through this reality, you might as well have some of those sentences, engaged, so you can kind of say like, there's an honest chance that, these things would do something for me in an honest way. Nah, 400 years people suffered, you know what I mean? Some things are just by design. I don't think that you have to stay suffering though. You can change. Oppression is oppression, man. History tells you like that's all it's all about. That's why you have these memorial days and these psychologists and these people telling you like, yo, really think about what you're thinking about, because history tells us that manipulation is a true thing, and it's sometimes the most detrimental thing to our society because how ignorant we are to some honest and valuable principles that are universal. And I think it's because the removal of God in some sense. And sometimes the reason why people are ignorant is because of the lack of relationship with God is also present. That's what the Bible's love story, right? Fall of Adam and Eve. The serpent convinced Eve to commit the sin, and then Adam and that's us. We're human. So there's the evil influence. There's accuser in this world, and there's a liberator in this world. And the creator had a problem with that, and he decided to do something redemptive because of that. But yeah, that's one way to look at it. There's so many ways that people consider that. The only reason why I narrow to that, because true statements are all in that book. There's no book that has more true statements in it than one. Look for it. You won't find one. And so if I'm looking to be honest, and if I'm claiming a deity to believe in, I would want one to know it's true. No, I send people that don't agree with me Bible verses sometimes. I'm not even playing with you. I don't care. I share my faith. It's like, that has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? I think it's very, very, very clear where I'm at. So you deal with that if you want to have a relationship with me. What they taught me when I got my master's degree is something that I feel like allowed me to kind of be more zealous on, my international asset strategy. And they told me that the U.S. hegemon is over, and that if you had a problem with it, you might want to go abroad because of a thing called globalization. And I'm like, in that class, there's like, maybe 200 to 300 people, and billions of people didn't get that lecture. So that's where I'm like, I'm thinking bigger, because we get on to this interpersonal stuff. I'm like, they all have some tie-in, and so it's important, for people to kind of consider a bigger picture, if they're going to, try to look for ways they can, afford themselves rest for their mental relationship with God, and the things that they can use to kind of, give themselves some understanding about what they can do with their hours on the day.
What's something you're grateful for right
My health, man. Truthfully, like I said, I got into a car accident this weekend, so just grateful that I woke up. I was so grateful for that.
now? Can you tell me that story real quick?
Some car, man. Friday, guy in front of me made it unavoidable for me to hit him, and yeah, man. I ended up going black out, waking up, getting out my car. I've been concussed 2 times, so it's like the Marine kicked into me. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, man? Are you okay? I'm sorry all this happened. And it was just a long night. It's a real long night.
How are you now?
I'm blessed, just taking it a day at a time, got these stitches about to get healed, and, go make the following up appointments, but.
Where are the stitches in your nose?
Yeah, right here, man. Yeah, if you probably can see this big old booger up in here.
Does it look like a booger?
Maybe. You tell me, you got the closer.
I can't see, man. I don't have my glasses on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the big monitor. That's
All
the
right.
other thing,
If somebody asks me to wipe my nose and they see this, tell them it's just Vaseline. It's not a booger, yeah.
No Vaseline. All right. Cut.
All right.